Layla, can you say mama? Say mama? She's bouncing. Say mama? This is a, hi.
News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Presented by the Choctaw Casino and Resort in Durant. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
It is Bedlam. That's right, it is Bedlam week here in Norman. Welcome back to the unofficial 40 podcast presented by the Choctaw Casino and Resort in Durant, Oklahoma. We welcome in the whole crew. Josh, Eddie, Bob, and Layla, apparently. As you heard, if you're wondering, what the hell was that at the beginning of the podcast? That was that.
Oh, no.
Josh is Mr. Mom in it today.
We open it in, and then we intro in, and all of a sudden, somebody's pissed her off already.
It's the dog.
It's
the dog. Yeah.
They get along?
Is eating things off of her. Oh, yeah. She loves the dog. She crawls on them, so they're all good.
See, Josh was like, "I'm so sorry. I'll try and mute myself whenever I can." I was like, "Nope, we want full baby. We want full baby on this podcast." It's not very Bedlam-y, but
yeah, no, I mean, I think we're going to reach the young people here for sure. They're going to love this. But this was it Bill Jawin? I mean, he may love this. This humanizes us a little bit. So we have families.
She
and
doesn't know
souls
anything about recruiting.
Layla, she's not big on. She doesn't like the 3-4 scheme. She likes that Oklahoma's moved to the 4-down front. So she's been really adamant about that.
Yeah, there it is.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, let's start off with recruiting on this podcast because we don't always do that.
Oh, boy.
But it's a big recruiting weekend coming up. Just before the start of the podcast, we got some interesting confirmation from a guy that Josh is in your neck of the woods, but has been very back and forth, very hot and cold over the years. We even saw him in Atlanta, and we were just kind of like, why bother? But now he says he's taking an official to Oklahoma.
This is a guy that Oklahoma, and really led by Calvin Thibodeau, has worked really hard on. This was an early identify guy. This was a guy, I think it's pretty widely known that he is, I mean, Bob, probably the second guy I can think of that got eyeball emojis that didn't actually, I guess, come through and finish the job.
Way back when in the winter,
God,
yes.
That seems like so long ago.
A long time
ago. But it wasn't that long ago.
And from what I'm told, that surprised everybody when he did it. That wasn't something, a lot of these kids, like, you can feel it building to something. His was kind of out of nowhere. And, that's been interesting to watch. We'll see what happens. What's more interesting, and I literally, here at some point, I'm going to have to type, so we'll mute myself here so I can type, because I know that pisses everybody off. But since that tweet came out and I put something out about it, I've had 3 different people hit me up, and there is a very real possibility that A&M is going a different direction for Marcus Stripling. So there is a very real chance that Oklahoma is now becoming his most regional choice. Now, Alabama is still involved. I don't know what Alabama is going to do with him, and I don't even know that this A&M thing is 100%, but I'm getting it from multiple places that maybe A&M and he are not on the same page now.
My first reaction to that, Josh, would be why?
What's wrong with the kid?
Yeah, like what are they? Is it grades or anything like that, or do you think they're just going in a different direction?
I think
just a recruiting decision.
Well, part of it is I've always been a little interested, and if Oklahoma is going to move back to a 4-man front, Marcus Stripling makes plenty of sense in that situation. In a 3-down front, Marcus is about 6'2.5" and about 255. Like, I don't know how well he fits a 3-down setup. Like, he's not that big. He's not that long. He's not going to grow in. I mean, like, Marcus Stripling at 290 pounds is not going to be the player you recruited him to be. He's going to be something else. He's going to be, almost like Matt Romar playing a nose tackle. Like, yeah, he can do it, but that's not really, that's not where he's going to be most natural. So that's kind of interesting to watch. And I wonder if A&M that's part of it. And I know some people I've talked to, some guys that you all know well, have kind of mentioned maybe his senior tape hasn't been where it needed to be. I literally haven't watched his senior stuff because, like we said, everybody has just assumed A&M forever that I've kind of only paid him peripheral attention. I'm going to go back and watch it. We'll kind of see what comes out of it. But to my knowledge, Oklahoma, he is 100% a take for Oklahoma.
Josh, is it a either or with Stripling and Owegbu, or is it an and situation?
Well, first off, and Bob, I know you know how this is, so I'll fix it for him. Agwebu is how we say David's last name. Yeah, no, I had to ask him. The only reason I know is because I've asked. But
how can OU even? I know numbers are numbers, but how does OU even picky about rush-ins right now? There's nothing other than Jalen Redmond. Is there anything on this roster where you're just like, oh, that guy's an up-and-comer?
Yeah, well, Ronnie, but he's a different kind of guy, so I know what you mean. No, to my knowledge, there is no connection. Those two guys are takes, and Oklahoma has plans for them. Layla apparently doesn't love that they're both takes. She's got her eye on somebody else. But no, they, like I said, from what I understand, they see Agwebu as kind of almost like an oboe kind of guy where they can use him in some different stuff. They can put his hand down if they want to. They can rush him. He does a little bit of everything for Seven Lakes, so I don't think that's going to be a weird fit for him. He can handle that. And Stripling is a pure defensive end. And like I said, if Oklahoma is going to go to a 4-down front, he makes more sense for them than the moment they offered him.
And he is physical. You talk about, he's a big guy. You talk about, not having physicalness on this defensive line. He would bring some of that. He's more, am I wrong in saying that he's more like the size of a Ronnie Perkins than he is, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example of an undersized defensive end.
The kid, DJ Isaiah Ward. Thomas. The kid from Tulsa Memorial.
Yeah, Isaiah Thomas, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's a very comparable body type to Ronnie Perkins. I think Ronnie's maybe just a touch longer, but same kind of guy, same kind of burst. They're, like I said, in a 4-man front, Marcus Stripling is a very good player, in my opinion. In a 3-down, I don't know how much sense he makes. So this could all work out really nicely for Oklahoma.
Which, again, is weird because you're talking about all these defensive guys not knowing what the future is on the defense as far as all the coaches.
It's an interesting sell for the coaching staff. Has to be.
We're seeing some of those boxes being checked off. Defensive line, edge rusher. I think the one we're still sort of looking for is safety, and I don't know if they got any real safety targets coming in. I know they got Jeremiah coming in, commit Oregon, but you see him at safety, Josh?
Hang on. Sorry, I was dealing with something here, as you can hear in the background. Run me back on what we're talking. The safety. I'm so sorry, everybody listening. This is so screwed up.
Is it Criddle or Criddle?
Yeah. And it started when the Jalen Huff commitment came down, and it's kind of something that we've seen. Because obviously you've got Buki playing safety. Oklahoma is moving more and more to the idea of we're just going to have 4 corners out there, and maybe our safeties are a little bigger or a little more physical. However you want to look at that, they're going to be a little different, but they're guys that can play corner. And I think that's what you get with Criddle. He's 6'1", 185. He can run. He's a guy that plays in one of the best districts or, what conference, whatever you want to call it, in high school football, playing St. John Bosco, Orange Lutheran, J. Sarah Catholic. He plays in the same conference that actually produced Grant Calcaterra. So, there's plenty of talent out there. He's played at a high level. He's a guy that I would think Oklahoma expects. If we can get him to come in, he's a guy that can play almost immediately for us because it's not going to be this scary jump in competition for him.
And, Bob, it was interesting, Lincoln Riley said this week, that he liked the 230. He was fine with the 230. I get the feeling like as long as it's not 11, they're not totally screwed. So they can really, I think I get the impression they feel like they can really make an impression on guys this week.
Yeah, it'll be an early Saturday morning for some of those kids that play on Friday night and then have to make the trip, but they can actually make it, where they really can't when it's an 11 o'clock game, which is not a realistic thing. So, yeah, and bringing guys like Spencer Rattler, like Trajan Bridges, they're bringing a lot of commits. I love when a weekend is like this, where it's the perfect mix of big-time commits who appeal to recruits to go with your top targets. Sometimes you lean too much on commits. That's not a big weekend if you bring a bunch of commits. And then sometimes you bring only targets, but you have no one to really entice them to want to join the fold. That doesn't help either. I think this is the perfect blend coming up.
Come
on, there has to be something we can bitch about. The weather, it's supposed to be cold. There has to be something that you have to complain about going into this weekend from a recruiting standpoint.
Well, I mean, do we have a resident meteorologist? I mean, within the four of us? I mean, Tiffany could be. She'd be happy to step in. She's a weather freak.
Oh, it is supposed to be a little chilly,
it's
but other than that.
40s and 50s, but it's going to be clear. It's going to be nice. Dry.
That's not awful for middle of November in Oklahoma. I mean, it could be worse.
I tried to go to weather.com. I went to wearher.com. I'm not sure if I'm picking up a virus right now.
Is it weird that was a predicted text, Carrie? I mean, I'm just saying, Carrie just
is that a porn website?
It's, we're at weather.com.
Wearherout.com?
Okay, one thing I did want to throw, because it was just something I'd never thought of before. When the 2:30 thing came up, I actually talked to someone in Norman that was actually pretty pleased with it, and I'd never thought of it from this side. And they were basically saying it gives us a chance to get these guys back after the game, and they can, kind of hang around and kind of get them set up, and we can show them some things on Saturday, as to where, like a 7 o'clock kick, well, the kids come in, at whatever time, they watch the game, and then they're just out with the players, and then, they see Lincoln Sunday morning, and then it's kind of like you're done.
Yeah, and the family can spend time up in Lincoln Riley's office, and, they can just it's more like a junior day setting almost.
Yeah, the 2:30 thing for some, for certain aspects of the visit actually works to OU's advantage. And I had never thought of that. I assumed night game was always a preference, but I don't think that's the case. So, I mean, I think 2:30 or 7, they can find the advantages to live with.
And a lot of it matters when they're leaving Sunday. Some get out in the morning and some get out later in the afternoon, and that just kind of takes things away. Sunday sort of become that designated photo shoot day where they all get in the OU jerseys and things of that nature.
Bob, we didn't tell you this, but this is the weekend we jump you in. We are making you go to the airport and just sit in terminals.
Yeah, we've bought you plane tickets for every other every terminal to get in.
Yeah,
you just have to sit out there. But you have to take a bag. You can't be like an ISIS member and show up with nothing.
Josh will not respect you until Josh will not respect you until you've done what he had to do with Julio Jones.
So that means I'm not going to college football playoff then, huh?
No, I'm saying this Sunday.
No, I'm saying you're using all the money you would use on me for that.
We can afford everything.
Yeah, I mean, the podcast is huge.
Subscription rates it's now $300 for a year. Congratulations.
We're going opposite of the Athletic. We're charging double instead of charging less.
It's a great business model.
Anyway, no, but I mean, yeah, it's going to make a hectic day for you guys on Sunday. But let me ask you this: Stacey Wilkins coming in. Maybe there's all the talk about. All the talk. There was one recruiting fan reporter that tried to make it out like Arkansas was making headway. Was there anything to that? Is there any worry on OU's part?
No. From when I talked with Stacey on Monday night, he debunked that really quickly. He just said the biggest hiccup is the fact that he has a 3.5 hour away playoff game Friday night, which then he would have to take a bus ride back to Camden, then drive 6 hours to Norman. That would be the reason why he's not at Bedlam.
Camden is way out there in Arkansas.
It's past Little Rock?
No, it's like southwest. Southwest Arkansas. It'd be like driving to
Texoma?
No, to it's not too far from Broken Bow, I don't think. Like southeast Oklahoma.
No. Yeah.
Way down there.
It's in that, when I went up there for his commitment, it's as rural Arkansas as I've found.
Just to give you an idea, weren't you like literally 2 minutes closer from your house in Houston than we were from Oklahoma City?
I think that's what we came up with, because you and I talked about, who would go, that kind of thing, and I think it was just a little closer for me, and, it worked out better anyway.
I do have... Go ahead.
No, one thing I did want to say, because I know a lot of people were very interested in that, the potential for him to take that Arkansas trip, and Kerry, you kind of alluded to it. I can say that trip was on at one point, that he was going to take that official. He was going to go see Arkansas. Talking to him this week, it sounded like it was a lot more about, I just wanted to take all 5, and he didn't see it as a big deal. I think, we as guys who cover recruiting and guys, fans, like they live with it. They think of it as a bigger deal. I think he was a kid that wanted to take some trips. And Arkansas is an in-state school. That's fine. He was going to go do that. I can tell you that trip is now off. And I can tell you for a very funny reason. Arkansas told him if he wanted to take that trip, he would have to decommit.
Oh, my God.
Somebody asked me about it on the board, and I literally laughed them off. I was like, no way would Arkansas be that stupidly aggressive. And sure as shit, that's literally from Stacy's mouth. They told him he would have to decommit, and he was like, I'm good. So,
what a I kind of give it up to Arkansas.
That's quite
the recruiting power play.
There you go.
That's kind of like Eddie going up to a supermodel and saying, I don't think you're hot.
Yeah, or asking her on a date, and when she says no, say, I didn't want to go either. I didn't want to go with you anyways.
It's like the really shitty movie that's come all the way around to almost being good. Like, it's so bad, it's good. Yeah. Like, it's such a bad move that it's almost, you're like, hey, I got to respect the game.
Yeah, you got to respect
it. So maybe someday, years from now, we'll talk about Arkansas. That'll be their new Adrian Peterson. We'll win with you or without you move.
What is that? Like, there's got to be some kind of, like, that's got to screw with your head somehow. Like, if you're a kid, like, if you're that young and somebody says, yeah, you can come visit, but you got to decommit first, and you're probably just like, well, no. But then you're probably, does it make you do, like,
like maybe double
hula
think
hoops
about
in
it
your
for
head and stuff like that?
Yeah, like not like he's going to decommit, but like a double take. Well, what if I did just to, go take the trip? I know what you're saying.
Just screwing with his head.
Yeah, if they were worth a damn, it might have been worth it.
No. Yeah, if they were any good, maybe you could pull that off, but they're not.
I'm one of the, like, he'll get it going to some degree. Like, Chad Morris is a good coach. They'll get to 7-5, 8-4, but there's no reason to think that Arkansas is ever going to be like where Oklahoma is, or even highly competitive in the SEC West, other than once a decade. Because even when Petrino had it going, they had that 1 year where they were supposed to be really good, and he, was on the back of, or he was on a motorcycle, and it all got ruined.
Well, you mentioned
allegedly on the back of a motorcycle. There's always been debate about that.
Yes,
there really hasn't been any.
Actually, there has. I know a lot of
Arkansas
people that believe that
just he got the shit beat out of him.
Her boyfriend came and found him. He got beat up, and it got all covered up.
There were photos from the scene from the police. Like, they staged that, you think?
Kerry, we're talking about a country that has staged the murder of a president.
Country
JFK.
or the state?
JFK.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
All right.
Ever heard about 9/11?
I should have known. We were going to go down this road.
Well, I'm just saying, like, pictures tell us nothing. There's pictures of us landing on the moon. Doesn't mean it happened.
Okay. So you mentioned, I think Bob mentioned, how big this can be just from a perspective of you have Trajan Bridges coming in. You have all these commits. EJ, I haven't tried to say his name in a while, and Doma Ogar.
There you go. You got it.
Coming in. All these guys that seemingly are, about as pro OU as you can. And you got Spencer Rattler coming in. I would assume this is just a big trip for Spencer Rattler after everything that he's been through recently.
A nice little getaway, if you will.
And Josh, mentioning EJ coming in, why should OU fans be excited about Evan Neal finally getting to campus?
Well, to me, this is a lot like with Jeremiah Cradell, you've got Darian Green-Warren at Mater Dei recruiting him. And I know Darian was he was one of the first people to confirm that visit when I'd heard rumor that was happening. So he's been very involved. The same deal with EJ and Evan Neal. They go way back. They're good friends. EJ kind of is the one that gave me the heads up that was coming. So I think the timing is really good. I mean, obviously to have them both there. Evan is done with his season. IMG finished up last year, so his full focus is now on recruiting. It's his first trip he's going to take out of his season when he's really kind of the mind. So, like I said, Oklahoma's a long shot in this thing. I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression or think that we're telling you that OU's locked in or anything like that. It's going to be a tough sell, but because of EJ, and obviously Oklahoma, and I kind of alluded to it in the breakdown of Finley Felix, there is more and more chatter that Oklahoma could lose both of its offensive tackles this year.
Yeah.
So if that's there, a 5-star guy like Evan Neal is going to think I could come right in and fit in. And he's 350 pounds. If that dude doesn't fit Bill Bedenbaugh and his style of offensive lineman, I don't know who does.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that. I have heard quite a bit about Cody Ford.
Rightfully so. He's
had
year.
A terrible injury. He's lost a year to broken leg.
Absolutely.
I mean, seeing what's happened to Rodney Anderson,
you have to.
You couldn't blame him.
No.
Yep. I think that's the deal. And think of how much. I mean, when is he going to have? Because you know how it is. Like he'll come back next year and everybody say, "Oh, it's going to be great for Cody Ford. He's going to make some money for himself." Blah blah. When is he going to have a higher rep than he does right now? With everyone saying, "Oh, look how well he's done at right tackle. This is perfect." Because now he's upped his stock. He's not just a guard in the NFL. If he had to be a tackle in the right system, he could do it. And so I can't believe I'm actually saying those words, but that's what he's showing on tape. So you get that versatility. Now, I don't think he's a first rounder, but if you're Cody Ford, and like you said, Kerry, all that he's gone through, if you've done all that and they give you a second or third round grade, that's going to be really hard to say no to.
I agree, Layla.
Yeah, Layla's on board. She wants more yogurt melts. She literally is like shaking the bag at me. Yeah, I hear you.
What's funny is they moved Orlando Brown over to left tackle, and he's playing really well there. Like, if you're the NFL, do you just have to say, okay, that's an anomaly, or are they going to start looking at more at tape with guys in college, even if they don't test real well?
I think I know what they should do. But in a analytic numbers
they're
world,
going to treat it as an anomaly.
They're probably going to treat it as an anomaly.
I think they should, actually.
They should treat it as an anomaly?
How often does that happen?
Oh, that somebody...
Where a guy is that terrible.
Yeah.
And ends up being a really good NFL player.
But how often does it happen when you have 3 years of college film to back up what you didn't see during testing? Like, you don't have someone that's a terrible prospect, then they test terrible, and then they end up being good. Go
ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a reason why people thought Brown would succeed at the next level.
I was always more worried about his bench numbers than I was his running. I don't care what he run. Like that was so overblown.
Yeah, OL running is stupid. I mean, like when Lane Johnson ran a 4.65 or whatever, I was like, holy shit, but at the same time, I was like, wow, that's impressive. I don't know what that does for him as a tackle. I mean, like literally, other than just showing he's very athletic, what did it really mean?
Yeah, he could play defensive end if he had to. What is that going to do for you? But no, the bench press bothered me, and I know everybody's saying, screaming, "Oh, he's got long arms, Josh." All those dudes have long arms. Like, it did speak to. Did he put in the work in the offseason like he should have? Like, and I thought that was a fair criticism. But at the same time, does that negate all that film where he's just murdering people? And I think everybody on the board knows I was a doubter in Orlando Brown, and that dude proved me and everybody else wrong. That guy had an incredible career. And, I mean, go watch the Ohio State game. One big-time dude after another, he just kicked him around the field.
Well, it is. I mean,
hey.
Sorry, she started off across the room, and she is now at my feet, and so she is very much right by the mic. So I apologize.
There's a mama. You can't breastfeed her. I think you already probably figured that out after your second kid. Anyway. Back to Oklahoma's offensive line and kind of replacing guys. I mean, we have gotten to see the second unit a little bit. I can't tell you that I've put a whole lot of time and just check, because usually I'm getting my stuff together and going down to the field. so I haven't been breaking. I don't know, Josh, if you've kind of broken that down at all, looking at games late on Monday Morning Idiot. But I mean, I can't. There's nobody that like Beat and Bo doesn't really brag on any of the young guys in particular. You've kind of heard people talk about Marquise Hayes that are on the scout team and things, but at the same time, he's not always one of the first guys out there with the backups either.
It seems like Tyrese Robinson's that guy on the inside that they really like, because he seems to get the run almost before any of the other backups. It seems like he's the guy out there. Now, after that penalty against, Kansas State? It seems like that's calmed down a little bit.
I thought he was going to be castrated on the sidelines.
That was a bad deal. The two that stick out to me, you mentioned Hayes, and I've always just been a big Marquise Hayes fan. And the other is Adrian Ely. Like, I watch him do stuff, and I get why, and I was one of those guys, like, he should be starting. I get why he's not. I've seen it now. He's put tape on where I'm like, okay, I get it. He's still really, really raw.
Just inconsistent.
But when you watch him move around, you're like, Orlando didn't move like that. And for people that don't know, he's of that same massive human stature. Like, he is an enormous offensive tackle. He makes other guys look small. And
he was.
Adrian,
it was confusing with him because he was so highly talked about during the spring.
Yeah.
And then fall camp came around. We were waiting for, like, Adrian Ely's really coming on, and he might challenge Cody Ford for that other tackle spot. Never happened.
No, it didn't. And like I said, you can see why now. But if somebody asked me in chat last night, like, Josh, what do you see the starting 11 looking like on offense next year? And there's a chance that's going to be a massive turnover, because obviously you lose the two guards. That's coming. The possibility of Evans and Ford, obviously probably going to have a new quarterback. Yeah, there's just not a lot of continuity. But when you talk about your two tackles could be left tackle, I would make money on Bray Walker right now. And right tackle, Adrian Ely. Not only are you huge, but you are extremely athletic. Those are two guys that can move their feet at a level that, just they shouldn't. And the other thing, I don't know if you guys noticed that little feature I put up kind of comparing OSU and OU starting lineups and where they were as recruits. The thing that's jarring about that, look at Oklahoma's offensive line that starts right now. There's not a single Rivals 250 guy in that group. There's a couple 4-stars that were kind of fringy for Bobby Evans, Cody Ford, both were fringy 4-star guys. But there's not the guys like OU has coming through the ranks now. Hayes, Ely, Walker, Simpson, those guys are all 250 guys. Creed Humphrey, wasn't highly ranked, but was an Army All-American. If Oklahoma can make the same leap with these guys that they made with the group that's there right now, that line could be better in a couple of years. She agrees. Yeah, back me up, sister.
The only person that will.
Yeah, no, she's the only fan I've got. Tiffany and Laney are like, oh, hell no.
Okay, anything else you guys wanted to get out there about the recruiting weekend that is notable?
This doesn't have as much to do with OU as much as, I think that there's probably a lot of people that were wondering about the Tulsa kids headed out to Fayetteville this weekend, which is kind of weird, but at the same time, I get it. I kind of understand it as far as, all those teams are going to be playing Friday night. Why would you want to wake up Saturday morning and drive down to Norman for an ass whooping when you could just drive to Fayetteville for another ass whooping at night?
Who are they playing?
Arkansas.
No.
LSU.
Oh, they're playing.
But I just get it as far as, like, I could see some of those teams having film in the morning and stuff. I just don't think it's that big of a deal as much as people think it is. I guess that's my point.
And that crew is...
It's like the Slusher kid from BA.
Miles Slusher, BA. Javian Hester, Booker T.
Oh, yeah, Javian Hester.
And Savion Morrison, Edison.
Hey, Bob, do you know who is driving that ship? Like, who's taking, like, dad or mom or whoever's taking them?
I would imagine it's Slusher, but no, I don't know. It feels like Slusher is sort of the guy, the ringleader of a lot of the East Side 2020 stuff.
And that's what people don't get sometimes. Like, Miles Slusher's not really getting a lot of attention from OU right now. So why would he go to OU? Well, if he's going to go to Arkansas and Javian Hester can't go to OU anyway, well, he's going to go to Arkansas. He can catch a ride with Miles.
Yeah, exactly.
And same deal for Savion Morrison. Like, if he can't get a ride to Norman, okay, I'll go check out Arkansas. They've been talking to me anyway. So, I mean, like, it's not always just, oh, they've picked that game over this game. There's logistics that just exist. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. One thing I did want to say, because it really was a big deal, I don't think enough people are talking about it. Miles Brooks, a Rivals 100 corner from 2020 from Jacksonville, Florida, is coming up to visit Oklahoma for this game. I've talked to him back since Oklahoma offered in the spring. He is really excited about this trip. You know, I can't wait to see it. I want to see Norman for myself. He's really, I mean, I think obviously any kid that would make that trip from Florida on his own dime has to be pretty invested in what he's going to see. So that's a really good starting spot for Oklahoma. And you have to remember that not only is he a Rivals 100 player, his teammate is a 5-star corner that Oklahoma has also offered, and he's very interested as well. So there is that's where you're starting, you know, and you had the Jalen Huff commitment earlier, I guess, last week. So you've got some momentum starting to finally build. And I guess, have we really even touched on the 2 commitments since I think our last pod?
Nope, we haven't.
Okay. Well, you know, I don't want to be the super long quote guy, Bob, so if you want to dive in, then I'll, you know, chime in whatever I have to add.
I think what was funny with Finley Felix, junior college offensive tackle from Coffeyville, is that, you know, he says probably middle September he told me he wants to commit November 5th. I was like, okay, that's fine. And then he goes to the OU official visit for Baylor weekend, and then the eyes go out the very next day. That's September 30th, and the kid wants to wait till November 5th for whatever reason. I don't even know if he told me why he wanted to wait till that date. But you start seeing Bill Beadenbow and Lincoln Riley looking at other guys, and you weren't quite sure whether or not this was still going to be valid. But then Finley went live Monday night, and there you go. Another key piece, another guy that looks like he fits exactly what Bill Beadenbow is going to want to do with that line moving forward, and it cross off another need in terms of that 2019 class. Still think they want one more offensive tackle, but at least now they got that junior college one all locked up.
First offensive lineman from the Ville since?
Ooh.
I can't believe.
Not sure. Who?
I can't believe it's not on the tip of your tongue.
Coffeyville. Is it Brandon Walker?
It's Brandon Walker.
Yeah, okay. I had to think.
You don't remember because I took the bullet and went down to Coffeyville we actually had his announcement like on Rival. That was back in the Rivals radio days. So he announced it on Rivals radio. So I went down there and set that up and went to the old stomping grounds.
And then Josh, you're the one that talked with Jalen Huff. So what did you find out talking with him?
First off, if you know, we're always talking about like, oh, can we bring a recruit on the pod? If there's a dude to bring on the pod, it's Jalen Huff. Like that dude, if you can get him on board with Oklahoma, I mean, like obviously he's on board, but if he becomes the recruiter he says he wants to be, that's a guy that can sell your program. Like he was I thought I was going to get 5 or 10 minutes with him, and we ended up talking for about 25. Like he's just a really good. God, don't make me say well-spoken. He's just good to talk to. I was impressed with the way he kind of looked at things. He really, because he talked about, you know, and we've talked about it along the pod, Oklahoma has gotten very good at kind of turning that old conversation of, well, you know, you go to the Big 12 and everybody throws on you. And they've done a good job of saying, well, you get a lot of opportunities to make plays in the Big 12. Him and his dad kind of talked about it, and I mentioned it in the story, where he was saying, it's not really just even about all the opportunities. I don't have to go tackle Najee Harris or you know, whoever the new Derrick Henry is for Alabama. Like I don't have to come up and play run against 240-pound monsters that I have no business tackling. He was like, it just makes more sense as a corner for my long-term health and safety that I'm going to tackle some guy from, you know, Texas Tech that's 185 pounds out in space. And, you know, I was like, I never thought of that. And I know that a lot of people, that kind of sounds soft. No corner ever. Patrick Peterson doesn't want to tackle Derrick Henry or Najee Harris or one of those massive guys. So I think it was just a sensible choice for him. And he really likes Chip Viney. He's got a good relationship with Kerry Cooks. And I think he just kind of sees Oklahoma as a place where not only can he make an impact early, but there's going to be a lot of opportunity because of all the defensive backs that OU rotates and uses.
Okay, by the way, I want to remind everybody that the Unofficial 40 is brought to you by Choctaw Casinos and Resort in Durant. We need to get out there eventually after the season. We'll do that. But I've been out there just hanging out for the weekend, took my parents, and I'm going to tell you, it is fantastic. They got the hotel rooms are unbelievable. Great dining out there. They got the 1832 steakhouse for like your fine dining. If you have a really long night and you get up the next morning, you need some hangover food. Butterfield's Buffet has the best breakfast hangover buffet I've ever had. They got Gillies. They got La Cantina for Mexican. It's just fantastic. They got the district with the bowling alley and the sports bar and the movie theater, the multiplex. So they got the craps and all that. We tell you about this all week, but I'm just telling you, if you want a great weekend, you want just a great night out, a great place to stay, go check out the Choctaw Casino and Resort over in Durant. Really quick drive. If you guys, I know a lot of you listen in Dallas, really quick drive for you guys, and even from Oklahoma City, just a couple hours away. So, guys, Bedlam is coming up.
Doesn't feel like it.
It does. I mean, everybody keeps saying that.
It's been weird.
It's because OSU got beat by Baylor.
Well, and
not only that.
I think it's just because I've been so used to it being on the back end of the schedule, even though it's, I guess, for a lot of people.
I mean, there's only 3 games left.
Like for me, Thanksgiving, for me, Thanksgiving, I've never really thought of OU Nebraska. I know that the older demo probably does, but
Thanks for thinking of our older demo.
Like
me.
No problem. I'm trying to be more respectful, trying to be a better person. Suck my dick, Diamond Dave. But I've never thought of it. I've always thought of Bedlam as like the end of the season, Thanksgiving, friends coming back in town, that type of thing. So I that's where I've come from as far as not really feeling like it's Bedlam week.
It just, even if they would have beaten Baylor 6-3 wouldn't have felt right. I mean, the last 3 years, the game has really mattered. And I think that was like, wait a minute. Now it's back to being, the Sooners should win by 20 or 30 points, and we're going to be pissed off if it doesn't turn out that way.
I've been talking all week and asking about this and about what OSU could do, especially with their quarterback situation, because they haven't played Drew Brown or Spencer Sanders. And I got kind of word from OSU people that I've been talking to the last couple of days, like, one was Bill Haston this morning. Basically,
added your source?
Like Spencer. Well, we said it live on the radio, so it doesn't matter.
You added your source there.
He said that Spencer Sanders really hasn't been engaged at all. Like, he's checked out. Like, once he found out that he wasn't going to be the quarterback, like, he hasn't been all that. Like, when they call timeouts.
What's up at Eskimo Joe's on Wednesdays?
When they call timeouts, I don't know if it's to that level.
Hanging out on the strip.
Not in the huddle.
Going to Coney Island. Not in the huddle when they're on the sidelines. Like, just not being involved, what you would think. Like, even Austin Kendall goes over into the huddle. I mean, I don't know. Tanner Mordecai probably doesn't, but
he does sometimes. And the only reason I say that is because I got some good video of him, like, chatting it up over the weekend.
But, like, none of that goes on with Spencer Sanders, and you hear kind of in practice, he doesn't get a lot of reps. So, like, if they did do something like that, it would really shock the hell out of everybody. Not because Mike Gundy's not willing to try things, but just I think the word around there is that he's just checked out.
Well, it just seems like it's pretty obvious he's not going to play. Like, Gundy's not going to play anybody else outside of Taylor Cornelius.
And it's not because he's been so good. That's why if you're Sanders or in his camp, you're so frustrated. It's not like a Kyler Murray thing where he's just killing it week in, week out, and there's nothing you can do about it. Taylor Cornelius has been so inconsistent, you would have figured you would have wanted to try something. Yeah, and they just won't do it.
He's had times where he's been awful this year.
Well,
he's not been good on the road either, which is troubling.
And that's why if you take a step back and look at this entire game this weekend, I'll be honest, I think OU's going to win possibly by 4 touchdowns just because Oklahoma State's been awful on the weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, on the road. Their only road win, and they didn't even really play well, was up in Lawrence.
Look, people can talk all they want about, well, OU's defense isn't any good either. But
I think they're going to have some success this weekend.
But OU's offense is so much better than OSU's offense. Like, their defense is still worse than OU's.
Yeah.
It's still worse.
Well, I think like you look at a quarterback that can't move around in the pocket. Like I think OU could have a lot of success this weekend defensively, just as far as getting after Cornelius.
Curtis Bolton might have a field day.
Yeah, which is honestly, it's surprising to say. And, we could even go back to the Tech game and we talked about it on the postgame podcast. I don't know how you felt about it, Josh, but even going back and watching the game the last couple of days, OU really didn't just play awful in Lubbock defensively, I thought.
They had a few bad plays, like the screenplay where they scored from like 40 yards out.
That was reminiscent of the first 6 games.
They basically
that was really bad.
I mean, and I give it up to Cliff Kingsbury on that play. Like if you watch that play, that's when they put their big receivers out on the edge, and Trey Norwood acted like he didn't want to get touched. He just backpedaled his way into the OU bench, basically. But their big receivers just went out and dominated, OU's DBs defensively, and Robert Barnes wasn't over there because he's the only guy that actually has any kind of physicality.
Yeah, like I said, I thought, I mean, and I've tried to be really clear about it. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't, OU's not Alabama. No one's going to make that mistake. But at the same time, can they win playing that level of defense a lot of the time? Sure. I mean, they start out in a 14-point hole. You take that away. If you'd have told OU fans that they were going to go to Lubbock and give up 32, I don't think anybody's that pissed about that.
Yeah. You think about it.
That's a decent performance.
It really was 51-40, and then they score on a trash touchdown late. But you use, what is it, 20? It's 26 points that their offense really scored in that game.
My only question was if there weren't those 2 picks, would have Tech scored anyway?
Probably.
The way they were playing in the first half with Bowman.
They stopped them on the first series.
They did.
So you could argue that they wouldn't have.
Let's say 1. Okay, so then you give up, 33 points?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're erasing points off the board after the CeeDee Lamb 30-yard penalty because, I mean, you have first and goal from the 7.
And then they
taking
score
my
a
chances
touchdown,
that OU's going to score there.
Yeah. Well, no, but also the Motley interception. Like I said, they score on the very next play.
That's a great point. You're right. That's the thing.
We
like when you start looking at it,
we're just apologists right now for the OU defense.
But I mean, it's the facts.
It was so close to being a pretty strong performance. It just, and part of it, like, and Bob, you kind of talked about, well, would they have scored anyway? Well, it felt like Oklahoma had the momentum. They came up with a stop, which is, everybody was like, if they get 2 of those a half, OU's going to win this game. And they come up with a stop, and they still end up down 14-0. They gave Tech momentum so many times.
Because of their stupidity.
They should never have been able to win on the road. With the 2 picks, the CeeDee Lamb thing, you don't usually come back from stuff like that. But OU was just so good offensively in the second half. I mean.
Oh, Josh, I said it on the podcast just as far as there are very few teams in the country, I think, that could have dug themselves a 14-0 hole in Lubbock at night and come back and won the game.
I agree.
Now, the upper echelon teams, I think, obviously could have, because I don't think that Lubbock is a tough place to play as much as or to win as much of it's a tough place to play. But at the same time, like, Texas digs themselves a 14-0 hole this weekend. They're not coming back and winning. I don't care if they're playing Alan Bowman or Jet Duffy.
I'll say this, like, OU as a team as a whole, I would say Des Bryant, but he's not in football. They're like
he is today.
He is today. I didn't even see that.
Saints.
Oh wow,
it's a bitch move, by the way.
I would say
very
like,
KD-esque move.
OU football right now, they're kind of like the Pac-Man Jones of teams. Like they do
throwing singles at strippers.
They do stupid things, and they're still good. Like it's like they can do stupid stuff and get away with it because they are so good on offense. But, they're not going to beat a really good team doing that.
As long as they don't shoot anybody at a strip club, I think we'll be good.
Well,
guys, without all the crime.
Never go full Pac-Man.
Unless the crimeless Pac-Man Jones.
That's fair.
I was tending to the baby when we were having the Oklahoma State conversation. Does that team feel like a team that's just on the brink of a collapse?
Yes.
Like, that feels really close, like the wheels are going to come off in a bad way.
I don't know as much as...
one or the other.
Yeah, I don't know as much... Because I think that I was on the Kyle Porter and Carson Cunningham's podcast on Monday. I told them I could very well see Oklahoma State getting beat by 30 this weekend and then beating West Virginia next weekend. Yeah, I just think that they're a schizophrenic team that can't play on the road.
Crazy chick.
I think there's some truth in that, but I also think that's also to do with West Virginia is almost a schizophrenic. Like, you don't know what you're going to get ever. Sure. Not year to year, not game to game. Like, from minute to minute with West Virginia, you have no idea.
You're going to get some huge set of balls on their head coach, though. That's for sure.
If not for that 2-point conversion, though.
Gotta love that.
If not for that 2-point conversion, then I think we're witnessing the annual West Virginia nosedive at the end of the season.
For sure. I mean, they're undisciplined. It almost caught up with them. I mean, how many times has a team...
They start more fights than anyone else in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. They're fake tough guys.
Well, look how this is setting up. Because you remember years ago when... I think it was the first year West Virginia was in the league when Geno Smith went to Austin and they beat them like 49-42. It was like Geno Smith threw for like 450 yards. It was the Tavon Austin year. I think it was 2012.
Are you thinking of Baylor? The Baylor game?
No. It was in Austin. It was it was a shootout. It shouldn't have been because Texas wasn't any good. If I remember right, like Malcolm Brown was running crazy for Texas, and Geno Smith was just throwing the ball up and down the field. And then later that year, if I'm not mistaken,
was Bill Stewart still the head coach then?
No, I think that's right.
With Geno? Rest in peace.
They had Holgerson was their offensive coordinator, wasn't he?
Is that how that worked?
And that was
then
the
they
same
elevated
year
him to head coach.
That Landry went to Morgantown, and we had that crazy-ass game that we've talked about a bunch of times when Landry threw it everywhere and Tavon Austin could not be tackled.
Oh, yeah.
That was
aware.
That was 70-63 against Baylor, too.
Yeah, that was a crazy game.
Lord.
They were involved.
That's when the Big 12 was really going Big 12.
Yeah, Big 12 has really kind of dumbed itself down this year. There's actually some bad offenses and a couple of defenses. Iowa State is pretty damn good defensively.
Oh, we can get into this whenever, I guess, after we get done with the game discussion. But if Iowa State was in the SEC, they'd be in the top 15 of the college football playoff right now.
Probably, yeah.
And that's just the way it is. It's a joke that Kentucky and Mississippi State and Auburn,
LSU fell to 7.
Florida, LSU didn't score. I mean, the committee should have just come out, wiped their mouth from coming out of Nick Saban's office and said, we put Alabama at 1, 2, 3, and 4.
The thing about somebody asked me this the other day about Iowa State, or just it was the Kansas job. Somebody, radio station up in Kansas City, said, hey, tell me what you remember about Les Miles at Oklahoma State. And I started going down the list of, kind of what he was, which was they did a good job evaluating kids. They didn't necessarily win a lot of recruiting battles. They hit a home run with Rashawn Woods. He had, Tatum Bell at running back was really good, and they put together a solid defense. I said, you know what? I said, if KU hires why did I forget? Les Miles. If KU hires Les Miles,
let her rip.
You know what they have? They have Grandpa Matt Campbell. Because Matt Campbell's kind of like a young Les Miles. He wins like that.
He's kind of ugly, Big Ten-ish.
Yeah. I mean, they have explosive.
I don't know. He's had pretty
offense.
Functional quarterbacks. He keeps finding quarterbacks who can play. Les can't ever find one.
But Les, Tony Lindsay, he inherited Tony Lindsay.
Oh my God!
I mean, he is not.
Eddie, do you even know who that is? Do you remember him?
Yeah, I remember.
Okay.
Oso Poe guy and
I remember watching Oso Poe guy play at Lawton High.
Also, Poe guy, the man that was the starter in front of our man Ryan Breeze, now the head coach at Lawton High.
Was he really?
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that.
Ryan was his backup until his senior year, I believe. He might have started 2 years. Ryan was definitely the backup to also, though.
Les never had anything at quarterback at OSU that was nationally relevant.
No. I'm kind of in between.
And it's not like I mean, can you name me Matt Campbell's quarterbacks at Iowa State other than Brock Purdy and Kyle Kempt? Who was the guy before him?
Look. Did Jamarcus Russell predate Les?
At LSU?
Yeah, it would have been real close, like maybe a year or two apart. I'm just trying to remember if they were completely apart or if they had 1 year together.
Oh, I was just thinking of his OSU quarterbacks. I mean, yeah, he had Saban had Matt Flynn.
Yeah. Might have been.
Let's see. I'm looking him up. All right. We got Jamarcus was at LSU.
Jamarcus might have been there when he arrived.
He signed in 2003. That would have
been the year Saban left.
Yeah, and Les took over directly from him. So, yeah, he had Jamarcus, but I mean.
If you ever drank scissor with Jamarcus McFarland in Baton Rouge, reach out to me on Twitter. I have some questions.
You guys want to know the lowest price for a ticket to Bedlam on SeatGeek right now?
$25.
$15.
I'm gonna go a little higher than everybody else. I'm gonna say 31.
My God, you guys don't realize this. We're not people. You might not think that people are excited about this game. Ticket prices are through the roof.
Really?
Cheapest seat right now on SeatGeek, $124.
Wow.
Whoa.
Well, I would pay it. So go to SeatGeek. Get some tickets.
No, yeah. We do want you to go and download the SeatGeek app. Eddie has done it. Josh has done it. Josh, I don't know if you've gone through and looked at anything on there.
No, I have. And I told you that a couple weeks ago, Carrie. I forgot that because you were like, go download it. And I was like, okay, I'll go do that. I forgot. I've had it on my phone for a long time. Actually, a couple years ago when Eddie and Joe, R.I.P. Joe, and I went to Atlanta, we went to a Braves game, and I bought the tickets through SeatGeek, and we just used the scan and went in that way.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. I don't know because.
And we've had a relationship with SeatGeek for a long time through Sooner Scoop. We've even had, they sponsored our dinners and stuff. Rusty D'Souza really taken care of us over the years. So we've known about them. But, if you haven't heard about them, you hear about all these other companies. But SeatGeek, they really have the technology that other people didn't have. And, you can see not only your ticket price, but if you want to get something on the 50, if you want to get something in the end zone, if you in the upper deck, and it shows you, like, color codes it. Red's not a great deal, and bright green is a really good deal. So if you go on the app, you can look it up, go download it. You put in the code SCOOP, and you'll get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. So it's a great company. Go support them, SeatGeek.com. And it's not just sports. It's concerts. It's all kinds of things. It's NBA. It's not just college football. So Thunder fans, if you're looking for tickets, make sure you use SeatGeek next time and use that code SCOOP to get $20 off.
Let's sell some tickets. Layla, say SeatGeek. Can you get it? Say something. She wants to eat it. She's trying to eat the microphone. All right, no, that's a no.
No Disney on Ice for you, Layla.
Yeah, I know. I said she was gonna make herself her and her sister a pretty good little weekend, but she ruined it all. Way to go, Layla.
Now, have you started talking about Disneyland, Disney World?
No, they are. Well, obviously Layla is, but Lainey is unaware. She found the little brochure we got when we set everything up the other day, and we're like, oh yeah, we just got it in the mail. We kind of played it off, and so she is unaware. We're kind of deciding when we're going to tell her because we're not going until next spring. So we don't know if we want to tell her at Christmas and kind of make it almost like a kind of a Christmas present, or if we want to, because then that's like 3 months of, are we going today? No, baby, we're not going today. Like, and have to answer that every single day. So we may push it off even longer. We're not sure yet.
So we did the post-game podcast, the Eskridge Lexus post-game podcast from our hotel room Saturday night, and I let Kersey stay in our extra bed because he was going to have to drive back to Wichita Falls.
3 hours.
But and that was at 3:30, I think, is when we finished the podcast, and the time change was getting ready to go, or it had gone. So Kersey got up. He was going to get up early because he wanted to get back. Eddie and I wanted to get some stuff loaded up, and I wanted to get the pod put on the front page and all that stuff. So we woke up at I think I went to bed at 4:30, woke up at 9. But Bob wanted to get out of there. But I felt kind of like Bob, abandoned us. So I wasn't real happy with him, but then I got a text from you saying that Jason Kersey made you listen to country music the whole way back or something?
No, he had this Brad Paisley song he wanted Eddie to critique.
Wanted Eddie to critique?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That
Country Nation.
Yeah. I mean, I have no comment on it.
So I've not heard it. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to guess it's bullshit.
Kind of sucks, but I don't hate Brad Paisley, I guess, so I'm pretty indifferent to music. Does Kersey like
the song? Why does he want...
No. It's like every cliche possible. It's about college football mascots playing. It's bad.
I mean, I prefer that we don't talk about Brad Paisley on this podcast. I think it brings down our street cred.
Well, I don't know anybody that listens to him, so you're forced to listen to him on that commercial with Peyton Manning. That's him, right? I think that's right.
Yes, that's him on the nationwide commercial. Sadly, I know that.
Okay, we've talked a little bit about Bedlam in general. I think it's time for us to talk a little bit about guys that we're looking forward to seeing this weekend and that could make the biggest impact for the Sooners.
Get to the fridge. Grab yourself a Native Amber, an F5 IPA, or any of the great Coop Ale Works beers, because it's time to make a toast to this week's player to watch.
All right, it is the Coop Ale Works player to watch. I know, Josh, we've had a lot of people. I can't tell you how much we always appreciate you guys tweeting out your Coop Ale Works drinking, either before game, after game, and tagging us and tagging Coop Ale Works. I know that certainly helps them know that you guys are listening and hearing about their beers and trying them out. I know, Josh, saw a pic. You said you want to. I need to just make a trip and bring you some. But you said the Native Amber is the first one you want to go for?
No, I think the Horny Toad Blonde is going to be my that one seems right up my alley, which it seems like the lightest of the options, which is where I'm coming in.
I can get you the 12-pack, which is strange to me because like you're a big bourbon guy or whatever.
Yep. Oh, I drink rye. I drink any whiskey you can come up with. I'll drink. For some reason, I just like a light beer.
I'll bring you some DNR because that's kind of a nice finish to the night beer. I don't recommend a lot of those in one sitting. It's kind of a dessert.
I've heard
beer.
Eddie with a few of them, so I mean, I know it's got to be good.
It's just because Eddie knows how high the alcohol content is in them.
I'll drink anything that gives me an edge. I'll drink anything, smoke anything, take anything.
Okay.
This segment brought to you by...
I'm just kidding, Mom.
Jeez. I'm glad that you're more worried about your mom than you are our sponsors.
Speaking of family, I can tell you that Tiffany is now an avid listener. She discovered podcasts like a week ago, and ours is now part of her
rotation.
Her weekly review.
Great. Welcome.
So she's listening.
What are we next to? Like...
Well, like
Nurse
Dr.
Fantasies.
Death, like there's this one that's like it's about this anesthesiologist is like killed people and stuff, and he's this awful person and all that. Like it really is. It's like she's known I've been recording a pod with you guys for a couple of years now, but it never occurred to her that hey, maybe I would like a podcast. And she found one she liked, and then I showed her the one that kind of got me into it was Missing Richard Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys ever listened to it. I don't even know that, and I know like everybody's like Richard Simmons. It's really good. Like it's a really good pod, and I listened to that, and then I kind of got into a whole bunch of other stuff. Well, she listened to Richard Simmons, and all of a sudden she's into it all, and that's all she listens to during drive time. So she literally texted me this morning. She's like, "I finished last week's. You guys need to record a new one." I was like, "Well, we're recording at 10, so got you."
Well, I'm glad that we could bring her into our world. Reminding you guys, Coop, they're a local brewer here in Oklahoma City, 9-year-old. They have the 12-packs for the Horny Toad, so I will get you one of those, Josh, when I know I'm going to see you next. They got 7 year-round beers and 4 seasonals, so make sure you stock up your tailgate with some of our favorites, the Coop's F5 IPA or the Horny Toad Blonde. All right, player to watch this week. It is a game very similar to Tech in that Oklahoma State throws a lot to bigger wide receivers. I don't know that they're nearly as physical across the board as Texas Tech was, but Justice Hill is something that they didn't have to deal with against Texas Tech. So are we leaning more towards the defense in this game as far as our players to watch?
Sure. I think Curtis Bolton's a really good call.
Yeah.
One that you mentioned earlier, I think that he could set up for having himself a really nice afternoon. It seems like Ronnie Perkins is playing a lot more confidently, or with a lot more confidence than he has in recent weeks.
How about Jalen Redmond in this game? At home, rush edge.
A little bit more comfortable, fourth game, got his feet underneath him officially.
Yeah.
It was weird that he didn't play a whole lot in the first half last week.
I talked to someone about that.
Is that on? Is that by game plan?
It wasn't the game plan. I know some people thought like, oh, it's game plan or oh, it's this. I think what I gathered is that Oklahoma was kind of waiting for a moment when the game was going to calm down a little bit. Like it was just so frenetic through the whole first half that they kind of were a little afraid to throw him out there because the people I've talked to, it's same things we see. Like, oh, the talent is enormous, but at times like he's still thinking, he's still figuring things out, and it makes him react slowly. And so just understandable things for a guy who hadn't played much.
Sure.
But what I got was at halftime they were like, this is just going to be a crazy game, so whatever, we're just going to run him out there. So that was, it wasn't like there was no punishment, there was no we were going to let him sit through the first half. Like my impression was the intention was to get him out there in the first half. It just never really found a spot where they felt like that was going to be the best spot for him.
That triggers me a little bit because this is something that I feel like I've been arguing for a long time. Why just let the guy learn the hard way, I feel like, as opposed to being so terrified that he's going to go out there and think too much or be out of position. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just something that is carried over from, or not necessarily carried over, but I don't know. Maybe, would they have held him back if Mike Stoops was still the defense coordinator, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
No, because Mike loved him. I mean, Mike was clamoring for him to get out on the field.
But he also loved guys that never saw the field. I can't think of great examples, but it just seems like, I mean, it's just bullshit the way that they do it sometimes. Like, why, if a guy's young, why don't you just throw him out there? I'd rather have a young guy screwing up than an older upperclassman being in the right spot, not doing things, but not being able to make the play.
And that's what that makes sense. Last year about Kenneth Murray. He's the best example. He's a young guy that just had to screw up to get better.
He had to go through some growing pains.
And he's done that.
But he had to. They had to have him.
I mean, they had nobody else, though. That was like a last resort type thing.
Yeah.
They had to do that.
But it's not a bad example to follow if they would stick to it.
You're triggered about like Trey Brown, I think.
Yeah, like I'd rather see him out there than somebody else just giving up yardage day after day.
But I mean, look, if he keeps playing the way he has, we haven't brought his name up, but I mean, Robert Barnes has been a huge part of this defense,
for sure,
and why they played better. He's a guy like you can't say, well, they screwed up by not playing him. He was hurt the whole time. I mean,
and that's
he
basically
couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
And, I mean, let's face it, I don't know what kind of precautions they have to take with Redmond or what they're worried about or concerned. Yeah. I mean, obviously his mother came out in the Oklahoman, said she wished he wasn't even playing.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some landmines to deal with there and dealing with his family, and that was probably news to some of the coaches on the staff. I mean,
yeah. Well, it's not necessarily and that was a article that I'm sure there's people wondering what you're referring to.
Was it Joe Musato from the Oklahoman wrote an article, talked to his mother. I'm sorry, I don't have the quote right in front of me. I was just kind of paraphrasing her thoughts in the article, which was she's been very worried for her son because of the blood clots in his lung. Yeah. It's a very physical sport, and she's not really a fan of him playing because she's worried.
He's not coming off the turf toe.
Yeah.
Like, he's not working his way back because he rolled his ankle.
Yeah.
I mean, is a serious medical issue.
And he's been, I'm sure, on all kinds of medication that's been scary for them.
But she did appreciate the story I wrote Saturday, where I kind of didn't talk about that part.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. You have to wade your way through it. I mean, I'm sure it's a delicate situation, but they did play him, so, I mean, he's got one game left. to play, to keep that red shirt on. And I think he's had like 7 snaps in 2 games or something.
Yeah,
and
I don't
30 in another one.
TCU and Tech, there's not
redshirting.
a lot of snaps, but Kansas State was a lot. I expect Saturday to be quite a bit too.
Yeah, I do too.
He's not redshirting.
Okay, so we actually need to name these players, right?
No, we're doing what we want. It's our podcast.
Our segment.
Yeah, it's player to watch, and you put the S in parentheses. So, I mean, if I had to go with one guy, I'd probably say Robert Barnes. Just because, I was talking to Curtis Bolton yesterday, and he was just talking about how much of a relief it is that when he goes to tackle a guy now, that somebody's next to him, and he doesn't feel the pressure. Like if he doesn't make that tackle, that player's going to score a touchdown. Like they actually have a third level of physical player behind the linebackers now, which they haven't ever had this year. So when you got Justice Hill, and he's breaking through the linebackers, if you've got Robert Barnes there, that's really gonna. And their offensive line is terrible, so I don't know how big of a day Justice Hill can really have. Maybe Neville Gallimore should be our player to watch.
I'm actually going offense. CeeDee Lamb, coming off that game Saturday,
that's not a bad one.
Is looking to definitely right some wrongs. For sure.
It's been a while since Marquise Brown has made a really big impact.
I think he's been hurt.
Yeah.
Well, no, he has been hurt, but I'm just saying he's going to be a guy that wants to make a big impact. And Kyler Murray clearly wants to throw the deep ball too much.
Yeah.
So if he's got a healthy Marquise
Fell in
Brown,
love with it on Thursday.
Yeah, he did.
Saturday.
It hurt them. That was
Third quarter.
A big part of why, other than the penalties, the biggest reason they got away from running the ball and trying too many deep balls, and it just let Texas Tech hang around. Josh, go ahead with your nomination.
I'm trying to think, and I kind of am with you guys. I think I'm going to go with defense because I'm of the mind that this game could get out of hand pretty early. I something about Oklahoma State just doesn't sit right, and with your story about Spencer Sanders, and that just feels like, who are your leaders that are allowing these things to happen? Like that just feels like something's off there.
This is signaling alarm bells right now because everybody, I feel like, is on this side of it could get out of hand, which means, and it kind of goes back to Alabama LSU last week, and as far as everybody thought that there was no way that Alabama was going to lose, they whooped their ass. Everybody was right, but is everybody going to be right this week? I don't know. I mean, the line's up to 19.5 right now.
It keeps climbing.
I saw that. Yeah. That
should have been smart. Jumped on it early.
I mean, it's like, you remember that line came out for Ohio State last week. You're like, what the hell, 18? They should murder them. And Ohio State struggled mightily. So, there's no reservations in Vegas about this one.
No, I mean, and sorry, I cut you off, Josh, but
no,
go ahead.
You're fine.
I feel like we're all on the same page as far as it could get out of hand.
We kind of touched on him, so I don't want to go on at length, but I'm kind of feeling like this could be Jalen Redmond's game. Like, OSU wants to throw vertically more than some of the teams in the Big 12, so there's going to be some stuff there where maybe it's a 5-step drop, maybe there's some time for him to actually get home, and Oklahoma State's not great up front. So I think you could see him maybe his first career sack, maybe a couple sacks. Like, you could really see him do something this weekend and start to be the impact guy that, I think we all know if Oklahoma's going to go as far as they want to go, they kind of need him to be.
And I'll say this, Eddie. If they were playing in Stillwater, I'd be signing the.
I'd be on the other side of it.
I'd be on the upset alert.
Yeah, I would too. Not upset alert, but I think it'd be closer. Like
they played Iowa State well there. They beat Texas.
I think that there's still a chance that they could beat West Virginia there next weekend.
Yeah,
but this weekend, I think there's a better chance that it's a 5-touchdown game than it is a 2-touchdown game.
And folks, we all know that if Kerry was wrong, he just claimed that he motivated the team to go to Stillwater and win.
Exactly. You know me too well. I'm sorry, but I deserve a lot of credit for that Kansas State win. That shellacking just didn't come out of nowhere.
Did anybody get to watch a little of that TCU Kansas State game?
It was on last night, and I watched a little bit of it. It was not worth my time.
I think I would literally trying to think of something I'd rather watch than Kansas State and TCU play college football.
You know what's weird is I love Kansas State's tight end.
What's his name?
I don't even. It's like Bose or.
Let me guess. He's real white.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh, I wonder what
but
gave
he's
me that
athletic.
Clue.
He's for a tight end. He runs really well. He's like a.
Is he no Carson Meyer?
Hey, wait
Carson
a minute.
Meyer doesn't look nearly as striking running down the field.
Next George Kittle.
Eddie, his name is Blaze Gammon.
Blaze, is it? Yeah.
Blaze Gammon? What a name. I bet his parents smoked a lot.
He might not be white. He might,
I don't know if we're talking about the same guy. You're making me go look at their roster.
I think there are a couple.
Oh, yeah.
Tight ends.
I'm sure that offense stuck in 1980 has more than one tight end.
It's Kansas State. I mean, they've got a 4 deep at tight end.
I'll tell you who it is. You guys converse among yourselves.
And a 1 deep of actual quarterbacks who can throw the ball.
Well, Eddie, I'm going to leave it up to you. Any horns up for peace thoughts, or we want to leave that alone?
Those pussies. Like, I just don't, Josh, and you hit on it yesterday a little bit. I do think it's funny that they have a little bit of, I don't know, they lose a couple games, and all of a sudden it's everybody else's fault. Like, it's just so perfect for that prick of a head coach to have his team be bitching about everything else that matters than them not playing well on the field.
It starts at the top. I mean, he's the biggest bitch of them all.
Absolutely.
I can't even believe he tried to really try to make that like that should have been a call. Are you kidding me? He extends the football. Do you know how many times? I mean, I'm shocked someone from West Virginia hasn't gone back and made a YouTube video of every time a Tom Herman player has reached across the goal line to score a touchdown. It's not unusual. It's not a weird thing. It happens all the time. Like, how the hell, if the Big 12 made that call, there would absolutely be a lawsuit being filed from West Virginia University, and they would be friggin' right to do it. Like, that's insanity. I can't even, and, I had almost started to believe, like, okay, maybe I was wrong about her. Maybe he can get this thing going. Maybe he can actually be the guy. But when he, like, more than almost anything else he's done, I was like, no, you're taking your players and you're giving them that excuse or that thing to whine about. Like, that's absurd. Like, you've never heard of an elite coach having that conversation. Urban Meyer has never done that for all of his whatever Urban Meyer is. You've never heard that. Nick Saban, hell no. Like,
he's absolutely lying about being a member of Mensa. There's no way that guy is a member of Mensa.
I'm glad that the country is now understanding why we around this area of the world think he's the biggest loser in sports. Like, he's a baby back bitch is what he is.
What the stuff he did at the bowl game last year looks even worse now.
Oh, mocking Drew Lock?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and he's made his own team. His best player on his offense look like an asshole because little Jordan Humphrey comes out, who's a kid I knew a little bit and really liked in high school, and he was like, we would never do that to another team, mock them or blah, blah. I'm like, there's literally video of your head friggin' coach doing it last year. Like, not one of the players, not, some guy that's not associated with the program anymore. The leader of your program making fun of a 20-year-old kid on the sideline last year.
He's like the villain coach in Little Giants.
Yeah, like, it's so over the top. Like, you're like, this should be a movie.
Whatever his name's
Gennaro.
Harris?
No, Gennaro was in
Ed O'Neill.
Ed O'Neill, yeah.
Ed O'Neill. Who's
What's
his
the name
Spike?
of his character
Breckenhager?
in the movie, though? Kevin O'Shea.
Kevin O'Shea. Is Spike Breckenhager?
So
I'm just glad we could talk about a movie that we all know about.
Hey, did you guys know? I'm pretty sure that Icebox, isn't that the girl's name?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she has a pretty heavy sex scene in a movie, and not bad. I've seen it.
It's not porn though.
I don't think so. It's in it's like in a movie actually.
That was always an underrated part of Old Giant. She cleaned up pretty nice when she went. she let go of Icebox. She was all right. I got no problems with her. A 14-year-old Josh, he was game.
That box is not so icy now, apparently.
No, I wouldn't. I would say so. Icebox naked.
There's your Google tip
Becky.
for you.
Forgot her name. It was Becky.
We're doing this in front of Josh's daughter. We're all going to hell.
She can't hear any of it. It's okay.
Wouldn't even understand.
Yeah, she listens to the podcast while we drive around sometimes. She's heard worse.
By the way, Dalton Schoen, he's actually a wide receiver is the guy I'm thinking of.
Dalton.
For
Okay.
State.
But Eddie was right. He's a white guy.
They're all white guys. Literally,
I don't think there's ever been a black guy named Dalton.
Kansas State has, I'm going to tell you, they have,
no, Dalton would, but.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 wide receivers on the roster.
I thought you were about to tell me they have 16 tight ends.
16 wide receivers. They have like 7.
Black guys.
They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Almost counted him. 8 of the 16 are white of their wide receivers.
They're all going to be the next Jordy Nelson. Like, that's what they got to be recruited on.
Yeah,
you're going to be Jordy.
You got to know that's what their recruiting spiel is.
Jordy Nelson, who I once in a breakdown, because I clearly had not paid enough attention, questioned his speed. That was a nice breakdown for Josh. Really,
I have the worst Jordy Nelson take of all time. On radio, got in a huge fight with Jim Traber about whether Adarius Bowman or Malcolm Kelly were deserving of being all Big 12 receiver when Jordy Nelson was at Kansas State. Darius Bowman has done a very nice job with a career in the CFL.
Yeah, he's been a really nice career.
Malcolm Kelly didn't do much of anything. Jordy Nelson's still playing.
Justin Blackman's drank himself to death.
Oh my God.
That's not official.
But it's also not true. Or not true.
He's not dead.
Do you know that?
That we know of.
Well, we haven't heard from him in a while.
I've got no status of him from this morning, so I can't be sure.
I've had buddies that live around the Ardmore area that say they'll see him every once in a while at Riverwind.
Really?
Not good. Actually, I now feel bad that I made fun of him, but I don't really feel bad. So.
There's OSU doesn't have the market cornered on that kind of stuff.
On what?
Former
Alcoholics?
players that are probably substance abusing themselves to death.
Oh. Well, I mean, that's probably everywhere.
Anyway, that's a downer for the pod.
Well, super. Yeah, we're going out strong here.
I wish I oh, you know what? We've had a lot of reviews lately. I don't know if you know this. A lot of responses to Diamond Dave Sooner, who I believe was responsible for Eddie's first F-bomb this podcast. I'm pulling up the reviews right now.
See what you made me do?
Josh, you going anywhere this weekend?
Yeah, my plan is tomorrow I'm probably going to go up to Dallas and see Seth McGowan. Interestingly enough, I was talking to somebody earlier this week that made a comparison that I'd never thought of with McGowan, but it's really pretty good and kind of timely with news as of late. Compared him very directly to Rodney Anderson. And I was like, I've never thought of that. But there's a lot there that I would find. McGowan's a really good receiver, really physical guy, kind of like Rodney is just a physical freak. Like he's just carved out of wood. And then on Friday night, it's a little up in the air because we still have the ongoing R.J. Henderson saga. And if he plays Friday night, he'll be playing against OU commit Jamal Morris, which obviously would be really interesting to see. But with the news that, I kind of put out earlier today, Marcus Stripling also plays on Friday, which would be very interesting to see. So we'll see. But, I mean, either way, it should be a good weekend for, OU fans to have some video and news, and, we'll kind of cover some stuff. I guess last week. Go ahead. You've got a big one that a lot of people are interested in, Bob.
But hold on a second, Josh. Will you just explain for people that don't know, that might just be podcast listeners and should be subscribing to Soonerscoop.com but are not, kind of what the R.J. Henderson saga is?
Sure, that's fair. Kerry, I've worked on this, but I still every once in a while I slip into assuming everybody knows everything. R.J. Henderson, OU's Rivals 100 commit from kind of Southwest Houston. was a guy that was playing earlier this season, then randomly just kind of stopped playing at all for Fort Bend Travis. And has not – the last 2 weeks he had told me I'm going to play this week, and even last week I was planning to be there at his Thursday game and then found out late Wednesday night he was actually not going to play. There is nothing concrete about what's happened, but it's pretty clear that it's something to do with academics. I don't know. The spin I've heard is that it's more of him being proactive and knowing he's kind of close and saying, okay, I need to focus on my grades for a little bit, which is fine. That's understandable. I've also talked to some people that think it's a little bit more, I guess you would say, responsive because maybe his grades weren't where they needed to be and he was going to have to take a little time out to get things right. So I don't know the right answer to that, RJ. I've tried to kind of talk with him a little bit about it, and there's just no it's not something he wants to talk about, and that's perfectly fine. But every week he kind of continues to tell me, okay, I'll play this week, and at this point, we'll see. I mean, I think he's probably shut down for the season, and that's what I was told by some people when the news broke, and he's kind of refuted that. So it's hard to know where the truth is, but I think he's probably played his last high school game, and we're all going to have to see if his grades are going to come through. And if he doesn't sign in December, I think then you start really getting concerned about maybe something serious and maybe him not being part of this class.
Wow. Okay, and Bob, you're going to talk about your adventures and travel coming up.
Well, yeah, it's funny that Josh will see Seth McGowan, a 2020 running back. That's where me and Eddie are going to be Friday. We'll see another 2020 running back, and that still doesn't make sense when OU has two committed for 2020 that are both firmly entrenched in the Rivals 250. Jalen Knighton and Jace McClellan, probably two of the better running backs in the entire class, but that's just how deep that group is. We're going to go to Tulsa Edison to see Savion Morrison, a name that when this season first started, I didn't have a clue who the heck this kid was, but in the last 5 games, he has averaged 350 yards rushing per game. Not total, but per game. And in the last 2 weeks, Nebraska, Missouri, Nevada are his first 3 offers. He was in Norman last month for the Kansas State game, so very excited to see what he brings to the table. It's been one heck of a story in terms of the high school year, but now in terms of recruiting and where does he stack up, this will be our first chance to really kind of get an idea of what this kid is all about.
And actually, I'm going to head down to Dallas for some of the Under Armour stuff going on next week. So by the time we pod, we got to figure out pod.
We got to figure out pod schedule. Yes,
because Tuesday will be, is it Trajans on Tuesday, and then Wednesday is Austin Stogner.
Yes, that's right. And do I have that right? Let me think.
You got EJ in there.
It's Trajan, EJ, and Stogner all in the first. And I know Trajan's first, and I can't remember. But we've got Kerry covering the first 2, and then either Bob or I are going to cover the Wednesday one, which will make pod interesting.
And then I got word as I was driving here. Davion Harmon will be at 8 a.m. Wednesday for his signing ceremony at Denton Geyer, as next Wednesday is the early signing period for basketball. And, of course, Lon Kruger has developed quite a class for 2019, so that'll be an interesting day too.
Could you guys stomach?
Are we gonna act like we care about that?
Could you guys stomach basketball last night at all?
Yeah, I could, because there was some really
Duke
good
is really
basketball.
good.
They are unbelievable.
Yeah, but I know you don't care about this, Eddie. But for me, I was just kind of like, I mean, it's for the biggest problems in sports playing each other.
Well, I have a perfect. I unfolded this perfect scenario of what should happen in these early preseason basketball games.
Okay.
The winning school should get $100,000 to add to their recruiting fund, and you can spend it however you want.
On whoever you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So like Kansas, $100K. They
just
can spend it on whatever.
About cash.
Cash and recruiting. It's like a cash game. How cool would that be?
Eddie just wants transparency. That's what's happening anyway.
Duke and Kentucky play the late night game.
I mean, how much money was on that floor last night is what I want to know.
Millions of dollars.
Oh, no, I'm sure Zion Williamson came really cheap. Yeah, for sure.
And the fact that
he
Mike
wanted to get a good education, Josh.
And why is it
that for 8 months
that in North Carolina, it's like the coaches are just they're allowed to just act like, oh, well, this isn't a thing.
They're already under the microscope.
Well, what I'm saying is, the Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski are the two that basically are willing to bury their head in the sand and act like none of this is going on.
Right.
And that they've never heard of such a thing.
It's because they have a reputation to uphold.
No, to say you've never heard of something like that happening is an outright lie.
Yeah, it's asinine.
Even we hear stuff, and we're not the ones actively recruiting guys.
Nor do we spend as much time covering basketball recruiting as we do football recruiting.
But I'm saying even in football, you hear
to cover
stuff.
basketball recruiting, you have to shower 4 times a day.
Oh, I'm actually surprised, Eddie, that your job, your profession, wasn't with a shoe company taking kids and coaches to strip clubs. I mean, and being the bag man for Adidas.
I sent my resume my sophomore year of college to John Junker with the Fiesta Bowl, and it never came to fruition.
Did you really?
No, but that would have been funny. Zion Williamson, though, and RJ Barrett.
Yes.
Duke is going to kill people this year.
And Barrett's going to be better as a college player this year than Williamson.
Yeah, long term, I take Williamson.
Yeah.
If the Thunder were terrible, I would be advocating for them to
tank to get Williamson.
Get Zion. Russ, PG, Zion, 2019. I think they could win the NBA title.
Why? Let's not bypass that idea. I mean,
Just
the Thunder
go
are
ahead
not going
and
to
do
win
it.
anything this year.
Let's
consider it.
They're going for their 6th straight, Josh.
I'm not. But what are they going to win? They're going to be the 5th seed in the West and get run out by somebody.
Anybody going? They're not going to be the 5th seed in the West. Utah is not well.
What
Houston
have they done
down.
to you down there? What have they done to you,
guys? I love the Thunder. I watch it. I wear my stuff out.
They're top.
I'm a realist. Let's revisit Alabama, Oklahoma, and Auburn several years ago. Okay, it's about the long term. OU's not winning anything that matters, or Thunder's not winning anything that matters this year.
Is this a Sugar Bowl debate again?
Yes, that's exactly what he's talking about.
We've come all
You're
we've full
planning
circled
for
this.
the future.
So much different in college football than the NBA, by the way. But I do agree with you. Maybe tank.
They can't tank.
If Paul George,
I mean, if Russell ends up blowing out a knee, then you tank.
Yeah, maybe so.
But I don't think they're even without Russell. This is a good roster, man.
Tell Russell to work on his threes during the game this year. And it's not really a tank. He's just trying to improve his game.
Just start letting Steven Adams take threes.
Yeah, what do we all think Steven Adams lacks? We're all like, you know what? He needs to step away from the bucket. That's where Steven Adams.
We're going to spend our season developing that part of his game.
Absolutely.
And Dennis Schroeder, you work on your post game.
Exactly. See, Andre Roberson, you know what you need to work on? That corner 3. Let's take a few more of those when you get back, buddy.
By the way, I did appreciate your mispronouncing of Ellinger's name in your.
Did you like that? That was a nice touch, wasn't it?
That was planned, right?
Yeah.
It's very
okay. That was
Seibert of you.
Perfect.
I thought it would be on brand.
That was as good as anything else in the whole thing. That was perfect both times.
It's been enjoyable. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to come up. I got to be honest. I think the airport was the best one yet.
Yeah,
Horns
I think so,
for Peace was more elaborate.
Wasn't the 3 keys?
It's like you got a
separate thing.
It's like you got a Hollywood budget, and you just it just didn't all come together. It's like you were better working on independent films, and you just you got to learn how to really make good on that Hollywood budget.
I don't need a Hollywood budget.
He's saying you went from Kevin Smith doing Clerks, and then you went, into what was it? His terrible one with
Jersey Girl.
Jersey Girl, Jersey Girl.
I like
awful.
Jersey Girl.
You would.
It was a father-daughter story. It was cute.
I'm sitting here with my daughter, and I still think that movie's stupid.
It's because I don't have a daughter. I don't know what that world is like.
It's not like that. I don't think. I mean, Laylee's getting close
Jennifer
to
Lopez died. I mean, don't you have a heart? Yeah.
Giving birth.
Really, from that point on in her
Gertrude.
career, you could pretty much say It died with
Can you
Jersey
tell
Girl.
I've seen that movie recently? I know way too many details.
I'm kind of like, wow, this is for real, because I was like, you're jogging my memory.
Gertie is what the little girl's name was.
Eye-opening.
Who's the other? Is it Liv Tyler?
George Carlin,
Yes,
Liv Tyler.
Liv Tyler.
Okay.
Liv Tyler was pretty hot there for a while. Is she still?
It always screwed me up from the time she did Amazing with her dad.
Yes,
she was like
that was weird.
And she was stripping.
She was a stripper in his video. Yes.
Oh, he definitely wants to have
weird.
sex with her. I don't think there's any doubt
Well,
about that.
I mean, she looks a lot like him, so I guess you love yourself.
Just based off of her Wikipedia page, it looks like Father Time has won that one.
She's getting a little clown facey.
A little bit, yeah. She's not where she used to be.
Alicia Silverstone has aged more gracefully, I think.
It's all the vegan.
Is that what it is?
Oh, she's hardcore vegan.
She's crazy vegan. Like, not even like, oh, I just don't eat meat. Like, it's, like, have you guys ever seen, what's the damn movie? Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Yes,
I feel like I have seen it, but I haven't seen I haven't seen all of it.
I've seen it
where
many
they break
times.
down like the levels of vegan, like in this one guy's like he doesn't even eat like eggs or like anything that comes from a chicken.
Yeah,
that's intense.
It's kind of like in Silicon Valley when what was the character's name of TJ? What's his name?
Miller?
Ehrlich Bachman.
So Ehrlich Bachman goes to this big dinner, like a venture capitalist dinner, and it's all these people they either have to pick vegetarian or beef, and he walks in and he says, "I'm a pescatarian," which a pescatarian just eats fish. No one knew it. I think he made it up. But a pescatarian only ate fish that eat other fish. Like, he would not eat a fish that was like a herbivore or whatever.
It's ridiculous.
And then everyone wanted a pescatarian meal.
That's Hollywood.
So anyway, that's all I got. I think I'm out.
We're good.
If Layla, it was fun having you today.
Layla, talk to him. She's just like Lainey. As soon as she sees the mic, all of a sudden she goes quiet. Yeah. She literally just sat down on the ground. She's like, I'm not doing that.
I bet we could get Lainey to almost be a guest these days. She's got to be a lot more talkative into a mic.
She's getting there, like, because she's getting that age where she likes to put on shows and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
so
nice.
Mommy, Daddy, watch me, dance or whatever it is. So we're working on
really super critical and just like, that wasn't very good.
Well, it's kind of part. That's the thing. Like, if she ever plays sports, it's going to be really hard to separate myself because I know all the crazy parents. So I'm like, I don't like, honey, that's really good, but you finished 10th out of 12. Like, that's good, but maybe let's improve it a little bit. So
you're gonna be like James Harrison. We don't accept participation trophies in this house.
Yeah, no, there'll be no participation trophies in this house. We're not doing that.
Are there even good, like, just normal, like, not crazy athletic parents anymore?
No, I don't think so.
Like, my parents would take us to stuff, but they never really said anything. I mean, and now most of the parents I know are so selfish they won't get their kids into sports because they don't want to have to drag their asses everywhere.
That's
crazy.
I mean,
to be honest, that's up.
I mean, that's just the way people are. People are selfish.
Is that how people are these days?
Yeah.
I mean, all my I've got one buddy. He is the coach of his boys' baseball team. He's head coach of his girls' softball team. He's got two twin girls that are on that team. He helps with soccer. He is like running these kids all over. Like, basically, they have a minivan to transport half the team all over God's creation. Like, they play.
That's his whole life. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Outside of earning money, that's his whole life.
Exactly. Outside of having a full-time job, he also does that. So
it's intense.
I don't know about
but it's
all
because,
that.
and I think the sports are just, it's not that parents are selfish. I think it's just that there's so much crap now. It's like, if you're a football player, not only do you have the football season, but you got 7-on-7, you got camps.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's a full-time, like you said, it's a full-time job being a parent of an athlete anymore.
No doubt.
Yep.
Like when I was a kid, you'd play football. You had football season. You had basketball season or wrestling.
There are no seasons anymore.
And you had baseball season. Yeah.
It's all blurred together.
Well, I mean, it's the same way.
The specialization and all that shit that
it's
goes
horrible
on
parents.
Oh, it's awful.
So yeah,
it's horrible on kids.
I am not calling you a selfish asshole if you just don't want your kids to get into sports. I take that back.
We got a fall.
Oh no.
All right,
Josh. We'll let you take care of it. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks to Josh. Thanks to Eddie. Thanks to Bob. Thanks to Layla. I hope she gets better soon. And there's no permanent damage.
You have to ask. Are you hurt or are you injured?
You have to ask your toddler. All right. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you guys next week. Go comment, subscribe. We didn't get to that, but we'll get to that soon. A lot of support for Eddie and not a lot of support for Diamond Dave. That's a little bit of a hot button issue on the reviews right now.
There's winners and there's losers. You figure it out.
That was one of the reviews. Eddie is big. Diamond Dave is small.
I appreciate it.
All right, that'll do it. We'll see you guys next time right back here on the Choctaw Casino and Resort from Durant, Unofficial 40.